Okay, so this meeting is currently being recorded, and I am going to turn it over to Wanda to start us off.
Thank you, Ashley. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. And we're going to be discussing the release coming up that will be in production October 16th, 5.60. So today we'll be covering just the basic overview and technical information, both functional and technical information. We'll talk about the FPlay refresh and the schedule for that. We'll talk about some user experience changes, moving from Classic to Classic Plus pages, and then each subject matter expert in their module will give you the updates and changes in their module. Then we'll talk about the calendar year-end updates and then what you can do to prepare for 5.60. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to start the general overview here at this point. Of course, this is the 5.60 release, the schedule. We will have downtime on Friday at 5 p.m. So what this means is we want you to not only be logged out, but make sure that all your processes are also complete by 5 p.m. on Friday the 16th. Okay, that's when we'll be starting the upgrade. It will be available for you at 7 a.m. on Tuesday, the 20th. It could come up sooner. If it does, we'll let you know, but please plan for 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Okay, as far as what's in this release, we'll have a People Tools upgrade to 8.58. We'll be upgrading the database from Oracle 12C to 19C, and we'll explain that later. PeopleSoft images updates, we are currently on 32. We'll be going up to 36. We'll talk about new enhancements and functionality, and in the course of this presentation, you'll see that we've resolved 3 known issues. Those will also be identified in the presentation. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Paige for the technical information.
Thank you, Wanda. That sounds like a lot of change that we're doing, and that's part of the reason that it's going to take us so long. That'll be a full weekend for us. We'll have people working around the clock to get all this accomplished. So first off, as Wanda mentioned, we're upgrading People Tools. Why do we do that? The main reason is to stay supported and secure, but it also will put us in a good position to be able to take advantage of any new features that come along. Some important things for you to know as a user or as someone at your institution that assists other users is that you will notice that the appearance is slightly different. And during the program today, there will be some screenshots of the new, as PeopleSoft refers to it, contemporary appearance. Another thing to be mindful of when we upgrade tools is the browser compatibility. And I have a little chart here on the next slide. We're going to have a test on this at the end of the program, so go ahead and memorize that quickly. Seriously, you may want to get this into the hands of your power users and maybe the people who provide your desktop support so that they can be aware of which browsers have been certified and fully tested. If we noticed any issues that are trending for a particular browser that we think it is going to be impacting a lot of users, we'll be sure to let you know about that. But that's an overview, and no, there won't be a test because I probably would not be able to pass it either. So let's take a look at the next slide. And okay, so Wanda mentioned we're doing a database upgrade too. Again, a lot of the same reasons for upgrading is to stay supported and secure. The version from 12 to 19 sounds like a lot, but it is just the way that Oracle brands their things, that 12.2 to 19 is the next step. There was no 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. There was an 18, but we won't go there. All to say, this is not a risky jump by any stretch of the imagination. But one thing that you need to be made aware of, next slide, please, is that if your institution is using your PSQuest access to the database, you're going to want to take an opportunity to test your integrations. So first and foremost, you just want to make sure that whatever client you're using to connect to the database, that still works correctly, that you're able to still make the connection that you expect to be able to make. And you're going to want to run, your integrations to make sure they're performing the way that you expect, and to determine if there were any changes that you may have to perform some modifications to your code for. That's less likely, and but if your institution is one of the institutions, and then there's not many that are doing this on a regular basis, but if your institution is one of those ones, make sure that you talk to your technical resources and make them aware that this upgrade is happening and that FPRE is available for you to conduct this testing. Just contact the help desk. They'll get you to Michael Casuccio, who will give you the connection info and the password information that you need to be able to do that. On the next slide, we're just going to highlight some of the tables that are changing by virtue of some of the PeopleSoft update images that we're bringing in. In all cases, the changes were to add fields, and depending upon how your code to pull and use this information, depending upon how it's written, you may or may not have to make any changes. These are some of the more common tables that we know some of you may be using that have had fields added. And with that, I will get Wanda to show us exactly what we're talking about in terms of those appearance changes.
Okay, we'll talk about FPlay database refresh first.
About that.
No problem. So we're going to be refreshing FPlay the week of October the 26th through the 30th. What that means is that it will be unavailable for 5 business days. And what we'll do is refresh that from the current production and apply the release from 5.60. So any changes that's in 5.60 will be applied to FPlay at that time. Now, we do realize that some of you may use FPlay for training purposes. So if you have anybody that needs to retain, you need to retain those user IDs, please let Sherry know. Her email address is listed here, and please let her know by the 16th. Otherwise, that will all be overwritten. So again, if you have, and I think this is for Georgia First Marketplace. So if you have users for training that you're needing to retain in the FPlay database, let Sherry know by October the 16th. Okay, next slide. All right, now we're going to talk about some of those changes that Paige mentioned and the look and feel of those. So I'll turn it over to Julie.
Okay. All right, so here is an example of the changes that we're talking about. And as you can see, most of the tiles still are kind of what you're used to now. A lot of the navigation, isn't going to change. Really what's going to change is that background color. They have done a new, what they call style sheet. So once you go to log in on that Tuesday, you probably will have, some user say, I think I'm in the wrong place. You are not in the wrong place. It is going to, instead of that dark blue background, it's going to have that light gray background. It's going to look a lot lighter. So, you know, again, most things are in the same place. It just kind of has a different look to it. And so we just want to make sure that your users are prepared so they don't think that they're in the wrong place. Okay. Did you advance for me, Ashley?
Yes, can you see it?
No, I think I'm lagging, and I think this happened with when Wanda and Paige were talking, and I was like, that's going to be problematic when I'm trying to talk to the to the lagging slides.
I still see the home page as well.
Oh, Stephanie says it's lagging for all of us. Oh, okay, there we go. So it just took a few minutes or a few seconds. Okay, so we've talked about the Classic Plus pages, that there are some new Classic Plus pages. And probably a lot of you are like, what does that even mean? I don't understand what Classic Plus is. So you've also heard us talk about fluid pages. So classic, of course, is the, you know, what we were all used to, old school, you know, classic PeopleSoft. Fluid is how Oracle refers, that's what they call their technology that allows pages to be rendered on across all kinds of devices and to actually be usable. So, for example, if you have a Fluid page, you should be able to pull it up on your mobile phone, you should be able to pull it up on your tablet or the desktop, and you have a consistent user experience, and you can actually you know, take action on your phone or your tablet. You know, it's got big buttons, and it just looks more like, you know, more like an app would look. So that is a different technology, a new technology called Fluid, and PeopleSoft moved a lot of pages to Fluid. Now, technically, a Fluid page is actually a different page than a classic page. But they're not moving all of their pages to Fluid because some of them just don't lend themselves. Some pages aren't pages that you would pull up on a mobile phone or a tablet. And so what they have done to those pages is that they have made the look and feel more like Fluid. So they kind of look like Fluid, but technically they don't have necessarily the same technology behind it that would, you know, that causes it to resize and that sort of thing on a mobile device. But on a desktop, it makes for a consistent look and feel. So really, if you just think of Classic Plus as kind of between Fluid and Classic, and that's all that really means. But again, it can look, for somebody that's used to, you know, to logging in, suddenly their page is different, it can be, you know, disconcerting. And we do already have a lot of Classic Plus pages. And as Oracle releases more and more, we will be moving toward more Fluid and more Classic Plus pages. There is a lot of neat functionality in Fluid, and we haven't been able to take advantage of all of that simply because some of their functionality on their Fluid pages is a little bit behind of where we need it to be. You know, but as soon as they kind of get caught up, we will be moving in that direction. So you'll continue to see more and more pages go that direction. Okay, and here's an example of the Classic Plus Pay Cycle Manager. Again, it doesn't look much different. You know, the pages are a little bit more spaced out. You know, buttons are a little bit bigger, buttons are rounder. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on any of the content so far?
Yes, we have a couple of questions from the chat. The first one is from Ben. He asks, will we have access to the slide to reference the changes? And he's referring to the table changes.
Yes, so this will be, there actually was a table. It may be at the end. I thought it actually got moved up.
Yes, but the changes like the columns that are being added or the information that's being added to the tables.
Okay, yes, we can certainly provide that. If you are one of those institutions that does have a two-tier connection, yes, we can certainly provide you the details, like what columns were, and I can take down your name now, what were added. It's a lot of information, you know, that most people don't care about, but certainly we can provide that to you.
Okay, and the next question is regarding those user experience changes. The question is, can you change that background to a dark mode?
I actually do not know the answer. Now, web pages in general, sometimes you can make, I won't even pretend like I know. I don't know. I will try to figure that out during the course of this presentation, and we will let you know at the end. And of course, if any of my colleagues know that already, speak up. Okay, I'll try to figure that out. Yes, absolutely. We will send it to Jason.
Okay. So I'm not seeing any further questions, so we're going to go ahead and move on. Is there still a lag? I'm showing the release 5.6 module updates and changes slide.
Okay, and I've been talking, but I think I was on mute.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that. So we're going to see what individual changes for each module is included in the 5.60 release. And I think first up is AP.
Hey everyone, this is Jonathan from AP. First off, as been mentioned, there will be some pages moving to Classic Plus. We've listed those pages here, such as the AP Work Center, Match Workbench, voucher accounting entries, pay cycle details, which you just previously saw. And again, if you want to move to the next slide, Ashley. Here's an example of the AP Work Center. Again, the functionality is not changing. It's just the look and feel of it. You can kind of see that the font is a little bit different and the spacing is a bit different. Next slide, please. And the Match Workbench, again, functionality stays the same. Had to use this process. We'll have been having to hit the generate XML and post, and then the password not working. So you've had to get a PeopleSoft password. Now we have created a new process, which instead of generating and posting, you will just generate the XML, save that to your desktop, and then you will actually log into PeopleSoft using single sign-on, and then uploading that file. This solves two problems. One, that you do not have to get a PeopleSoft password, and it helps with security. So now we will always upload these files using single sign-on. I do understand it adds an extra step to the process, but this is definitely better for our security. We have updated the uploading vouchers from the Excel spreadsheet process. That is actually on our website now. There's a link there to the AP page when you come back to these slides. But yes, that process has been uploaded, and it's a very simple page in the BOR AP interface page. You add attachment, which will be your XML file, and then you submit it for processing. So I don't think that it'll be overcomplicated, but if anyone has any questions when you read the business process, please reach out to me, and I'll be glad to help you as I can. Next slide, please. 1099 withholding reporting changes. This is something I've already received some tickets from institutions. I know I've talked to other institutions about this throughout the year, and some of this may be new to some of you. The IRS has changed the way that we will be reporting 1099 withholding. There will be two forms now. There will be a 1099 NEC form and a 1099 MISC form. What is happening is what we've currently been using, Box 7, will now be reported on the NEC form, Box 01. And then the boxes will also be changing for the miscellaneous as well. So what I would suggest for anyone that is on this presentation, go to the IRS. If you're not familiar with and now. What?
Yes, I can see it now,
Yeah.
Jonathan.
Okay then. So again, make sure that we go to the IRS, familiarize yourself with the changes. And just to give you some heads up, this is the current NEC form, what it'll look like. There'll be a box 1. And again, it used to be reported miscellaneous class 07. It will now be 1099 NEC class 01. And then on our miscellaneous form, prior to 2020, you can see the highlighted boxes that are changing, but the only one that I saw that our institutions seemed to use previously was class 14, the gross proceeds paid to an attorney. That will now be moving to class 10. Let me just go ahead and say now, do not try to make any changes now because there will be new updates coming from Oracle soon. We don't have all of the details yet, and we will have another meeting in December with our institutions to kind of go over the new changes that are coming. Unfortunately, Oracle doesn't provide their updates until mid-November, December, so we're all at a rush for January to get everybody going. But as soon as we have all the information at hand of what's changing, because obviously that will change suppliers and that will affect vouchers and withholding payments. So as soon as we have all the details of how we will get everything organized and changed in the system, we will communicate that to our institutions, preferably in a meeting in December is what we're looking at. But for the institutions before then, I would definitely encourage you, if you don't already do this on a quarterly basis, if you tend to wait till the middle of January to decide to let's go and review everything, I would start reviewing your suppliers now. Reviewing those withholding classes, make sure they're accurate now, because whatever changes might be coming from Oracle, we don't want to add that to, the list of things we've got to get through January. So anything you can do now to prepare, getting your suppliers right, getting your vouchers in order, that would be great. And chapter 5 of the previous guide has all the queries that you can use, such as the 1099 payments, journal entries, non-reporting a mismatch. So that would be a good place to start in these last couple of months to just try to get everything in order. So again, we don't know exactly what's coming down the pike. We will know in November, and I will be able to share that with you guys in December. We have resolved the known issues of the voucher spreadsheet since we no longer want to bypass single sign-on. There's a new spreadsheet upload process. And again, that business process is located on our website. And another resolved known issue was that users were not receiving an error message when vouchers when attachments on payment requests and vouchers had a file name longer than 65 characters. That was corrected in this release. So if for some reason someone has an attachment that's over 65 characters, they will receive the warning saying that that attachment will not be attached to the voucher or payment request. So that pretty much concludes the AP side. And are there any questions?
Hey, Jonathan, I just want to stop for a second because it looks like we're still experiencing some technical issues.
Okay.
So I just want to double check. Can one of the participants give me confirmation? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Should be a question slide right now.
Yes.
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 Okay, wonderful, thank you. I'm gonna type real quick in the chat, can you hear me? Let's make sure that folks can hear me. And some sound and some visual issues. And I'm sorry about that, folks. Thank you for your patience. This was working just fine for us a couple days ago. So thank you for your patience muddling through this. We'll get through it. We'll get all the information to everybody.
So Ashley,
Yes.
I can't see your chat.
You should be seeing Jonathan's screen right now.
I see Jonathan's screen, but shouldn't I see your, can you hear me in the chat window?
Yes. You're not seeing an annual maintenance release chat going on?
I do, but I just don't see your post.
Okay.
It
The
looks like
last
a couple
thing
of
I
people
see is-
responded or yes. So I
Yes.
think that means they can hear you.
Yes. Okay.
Well, I responded to yes, but I heard you ask the question. I don't see the question in the chat either.
Okay. Jonathan, would you mind typing, can you hear me in the chat just real quick?
Sure thing.
And again, thank you all for your patience as we're troubleshooting this issue. Okay, I can still see your screen.
I'll just bring up the chat over here as well.
Yep. And if you'll just type in, can you hear me?
Can you hear? Can you just hello? Still no sound, and then one says yes. Oh, that was 226, I'm sorry. Hello, can you hear me talking? Can you hear us talking? Can we get some yeses or nos? Oh, I guess you would know if it was a no.
Maybe if we can have everybody raise their hand if they can hear, just so we can see how
Karen says
widespread.
she can hear us. Thank you, Karen.
Yep. Yep.
I see lots of hands going up.
Yep. Lots of hands. Lots of hands.
Excellent.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Lots of hands. Lots of hands.
Okay. You feel like we can move ahead, Ashley?
I think so, and I appreciate you guys helping us troubleshoot that. Again, we're recording today's session. We're going to have all the materials available as of tomorrow. So we should be able to get everything that we need to you guys, and you can always follow up with us. But yeah, we probably should go ahead and move on.
Okay.
Did you want to take control or you want me to continue?
Jonathan, if you would, that would be amazing.
I can continue.
Thank you so much.
Can you make your screen in presentation mode, Jonathan, just so it's a little bit larger?
I will try.
Only if you can easily, like, let's not, let's not rock the boat, but.
Yeah.
I know. All right, one moment. I'll do that.
Lovely.
All right.
Excellent.
All right, were there any questions on the AP slides?
I didn't see any.
All right, so we'll move on to asset management.
Okay, so not many changes in asset management. It's a pretty stable module. Sometimes some could even call it boring, but with the GASB 87 and lease changes we have coming up, it will be anything but boring for next year. But in this release, we do have a new query, BOR AM DEPR variance, and this query, if you have a variance between your net book value and your DIS line, this query will actually tell you what month that variance is in. So once you find out what month that variance is in, most of the time rerunning DEPR close for that asset for that period will resolve the variance. Just a note that the AM accounting period does need to be open, not the GL accounting period, but the AM accounting period does need to be open in order to run depreciation close. So if you have the scenario and it is hard close, then of course contact us for assistance on that. And I have an example, if you'll advance, Jonathan. So up top, we have the asset net book value to DIS line compare report. Most of you are familiar with this report and are currently using it to identify net book value and DIS line variances. So here we can see that the asset with the red box around it does have a difference of $2.82. Okay, but where is that variance? If you go to the query will just prompt for an asset ID, and it will actually come back and tell you that it exists in year 2016, period 2. Now, again, your AM period does need to be open, and it will reverse those entries that it originally did, and it will do new entries. Now, all of that will flow into current GL period. So I don't want anybody to get worried about that. Any changes that you do now, even if it's for, a period 5 years ago, it is going to flow into current GL. But that way you can resolve a lot of those variances and clear that up for reconciliation. Okay, next slide. I think that may be it. Yeah, and now it's Benjamin.
All right, for budget prep for next year, assuming everybody can actually hear me. Can somebody?
I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So for 560, we only had a couple of changes made it in for budget prep. We do have bigger changes planned, and there will be more about them as they become available. But we did a tweak to some budget validations on the non-personal services page. So where you would update non-personal services budgets, we had users manage to get some out of sync budgets, created budget journals that they had to deal with this year. So it'll now validate that the org budget is either 0 or it matches the appropriate budget. And this is important because some people use contra accounts or contra budgets for plant suspense there. That's a negative budget, and you have to have a negative org if you have a negative appropriate. We have an updated financials build process, and so some of you I had to rush to get you notes on which journal, which budget journals had issues before you posted the batch update, the batch journal post process. And so we'll replace any invalid or blank personal services accounts with 599000, so that just in case those work their way through or don't get corrected before the budget journals are created, it'll not require a DBI to get the journals posted. Next slide, please. For position budget management, we have some updates and changes that we managed to get in as well. We updated the HCM refresh process to actually add fringe estimates. So this will be a fringe calc, just like in budget prep, but what it'll do is it'll show you a per pay period estimate of fringes and salary on the position budget page. So users, after this releases out, users will need to update or validate the data in the fringe accounts menu, which has been ignored till now, to make sure it's correct. It'll look just like what you're used to in budget prep for those of you that use budget prep. And then we added the box for the per pay period estimates on the actual update page, as you can see in the screenshot. Any questions from the group?
I'm not seeing any in the chat.
All right, I'm hoping you guys can hear me because I was having problems a little bit ago. Okay, good. So for ePro and purchasing, we also have pages moving to Classic Plus. The pages are listed there, and add update POs, the buyer's workbench, expedite requisitions, core receiving, and desktop receiving will all have a different look and feel after this update. And so I have included, and won't spend a lot of time on them, but I've included a screenshot of each page just so you can see the difference ahead of time when you refer back, or if you want to share this to the users at your campus. So the buyer's workbench, you know, again, you can just see it's a little cleaner. The expedite requisition page, same functionality, just a little different. The next slide is the core receiving. And then the desktop receiving is the final slide there. So nothing major, just a little bit of a different look and feel. And Stephanie, I think these are your slides.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We do recommend that all ePro users, I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay, we do recommend that all requisitions are in an open or approved status before 5 p.m. on Friday, October 16th. And next slide, please. We did have one resolved known issue where the closed requisition process was not liquidating requisitions. That has been resolved with this upcoming release. And there are no new known issues. Thank you. Any questions for ePro purchasing?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any in the chat.
Thank you.
So for our general ledger and commitment control users, I do have good news. We have no changes for either one of our modules. So I did put a reminder in here just to continue to use that current journal upload spreadsheet, and I put a link in here to where you can find it. We did have the new spreadsheet last year with, you know, a few changes on there. So it is good news that we didn't switch to a different version this year. We have no current known issues, and we do not have any new known issues with this release either. So everything for those two modules will just keep going as is.
Hi, everyone. This is Kate. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. I wanted to share, there's actually only 3 updates for travel and expenses in release 560. The first is a little minor change on the fluid expense report. The fluid
is the one that is created by selecting the Create Expense Report tile from the home page. And as you'll see in this screenshot here, there's a new drop down with options to add expense lines, add from Quick Fill, and then the last option, Copy Expense Report, is a new option that previously was not available on the Fluid Expense Reports. I like to always say, please train your users and know yourself to never copy an existing expense report from a prior fiscal year, because that also copies the accounting details and it will pull the prior budget ref and cause issues for accounting. So please don't copy a prior year expense report. Next slide. Another minor change is when you're logged into the self-service portal, we've removed this employee T&E center navigation. It was just an extra click to get to the travel and expenses. So to make this just one less mouse click and make the menu match what's in the core portal, we've removed employee T&E center. Okay, so next slide. And lastly, something that's been requested years ago, we finally have editable accounting details for cash advances. Prior to this release, your accounting details would only pull from the default accounting in the traveler's expense profile. So people saw finally heeded our multiple requests, and they have delivered the ability to change accounting details on specific cash advance transactions. So, yay! One reminder here, ITS recommends all transactions be fully approved prior to 5 p.m. on Friday, October 16th. That means that the expense reports, travel authorizations, cash advances are in approved status. They are no longer awaiting any approvals in the workflow process. So that's our recommendation. And that is it for travel and expenses. Were there any questions? Okay, thank you all.
So now we'll talk about the calendar year-end updates and reminders. So Kate.
Sorry, I could have just kept talking, Wanda. So ITS is working on the annual per diem updates. These are estimated to be applied November 19th of 2020 to production. These are done, once a year, and we send an announcement out once they're updated. But these are the per diem rates, so that when you enter a location for your travel and expenses, it will pull the appropriate per diem rate for the location where you traveled. So we will send an announcement once those have been updated.
And again, this is Jonathan with AP. Just to remind you, for calendar year 2020, there will be 1099 withholding reporting changes. There is an Oracle update scheduled for November 2020, which I'll be part of, and to learn what changes are happening. Once we know exactly all the changes, we will send out an announcement to the institutions, and we will also try to host a 1099 changes meeting in early December 2020 to go over all the ins and outs of those changes.
Okay, now we go to other production updates and informational type things. So I'll turn it over to Julie.
Okay. So this is really just a reminder. We have had a couple of instances lately where we've had users canceling a process in the middle of a process that caused some issues. So we just wanted to remind everyone, please do not cancel or delete any processes unless advised to do so by ITS. Now, when I say processes here, even though, you know, when you're talking to an analyst, we use that word to pretty much refer to everything in PeopleSoft, but specifically here, we are talking about those processes that update a transaction, insert data, delete data, anything that is changing a transaction. Because any of those processes that change a transaction, usually, I mean, it could involve anywhere from, you know, it could have 20 different tables it's touching. And so some of those are quite complex. An example of a process that does change transactional data would be stage payments for expense processing, voucher post, requisition source, anything like that. You really want to be careful and not cancel it in the middle. Even if you accidentally kick it off twice, it is best to just let both of them run. Okay. If you do have a process run to no success, there's a reason. And you may be able to tell that reason by selecting the details link in Process Monitor and then going to either the message log or the view log trace links. Sometimes those will tell you what the problem is, or will actually give you some additional information. Now, sometimes it'll tell you what the problem is, but there's not really anything you can do to fix it. So of course, that is when you reach out to ITS. All right, so one of the reasons that we ask you not to delete, even if a process has run to no success or has run to error, the reason we ask you to not delete it is because sometimes the data condition that caused the error can be corrected and we can actually restart the process. And what that does, it makes it a little bit easier because all of those transactions that were kind of in flux. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry, y'all. All those transactions that were in flux can just kind of be picked up where they were, and the process finishes them out. But if the process is deleted, that's no longer an option. We can't just restart the process. And so usually the DBI that is required to correct the issue is a good bit more complex. And sometimes if the process is deleted and we can't even see the error message, then that just puts us kind of behind that much more because we don't even know why it stopped. So if you have a process run to no success or error, go ahead, and you can't determine the cause, go ahead and open a ticket to the help desk, but please do not delete the process. Okay, now on the flip side, report instances and scheduled queries can be deleted. And in some cases, if you have a report set up on a recurrence and it runs to error or no success, when it tries to run again with that same run control, in fact, you'll get a message that says basically it can't run because it's waiting on that old one, that old no success or error. In those instances, it is safe to go ahead and delete those. Now, those are reports only. So basically, you're running a report. It is just giving you giving you information about data in the system. It's not updating a transaction. Examples of those are the budget activity report, ledger history report, cash advance aging report. All of those can be canceled. And if you have one running along, it's safe to cancel a report. Now, there are some processes in PeopleSoft that are both a process and a report. If you dispatch a PO and you're dispatching it via print, it actually runs a process and then creates a report. It's together in one job. So if you're in doubt, then the safe thing is always to not delete it and reach out to us. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions about the content that we have covered most recently?
Julie, I just sent Ashley a text, but I can see someone typed in, it says the meeting chat is muted. And it could just be that there's a lag in the chat too, because things just keep popping up. But I don't know of a way to mute or unmute the meeting chat.
Interesting.
So people should still be able to type questions into the chat. It just means that someone went into Teams and the thread that we're on was muted by somebody. Okay. But folks should still be able to put their questions in the chat.
asks, will the payment, or I guess you mean purchasing request, auto close be turned back on after the known issue is fixed? Yes, if you were one of the institutions that had the closed recs process run every day in the batch job, then yes, we will be adding that back in after the known issue is resolved.
I'm not seeing any additional questions in the chat.
Okay, one of the things I want to say, we just got done with talking about DBIs. One thing that we probably need to let you know just to manage expectations is that all DBIs are now requiring additional approval. So there's an additional approval behind your approval, the director's, assistant director's approval. So there's actually another level of approval for DBIs now. So what we're doing to manage that is we're submitting those once a week. So DBIs are done now on Tuesdays. If you have an emergency, something that is an emergency, please let us know that in the ticket so that we can assess that and determine what needs to be done to get your DBIs done earlier if you need it. But just to let you know, DBIs are now done one time a week, and that is on Tuesdays. So just to let you know. All right, so what can we do for the 5.60 release? Make sure that we communicate the downtime to campus stakeholders. So your banner departments, your department users, any third parties that depend on any reporting or anything like that, just make sure that you communicate that. Also, communicate the extended downtime for self-service, Georgia First Marketplace, you know, for shoppers, requesters, buyers, and then the travel and expense module. So just make sure it's communicated on your campus. Communicate what's coming, new functionality and enhancements as we described in this presentation to everyone that it impacts. Be sure to complete all your daily transaction processing and have users logged out of PeopleSoft Financials by 5 o'clock Friday, October 16th. Now, at 5 o'clock on that Friday, they'll be running scripts. So if you are in at 5, it's going to kick you out. So that's why we say be sure to have all your processing done and complete by 5 o'clock and be signed out. We'd greatly appreciate that. Review the release documentation as it becomes available. We'll be sending out job aids, business processes, information on resolved known issues. Again, just look over that documentation, make sure that it is communicated to people on campus. And that will make this a little more seamless. All right, clearing your browser. We've got some job aid and some related documentation. You can see those listed here. Some of these we've talked about already specifically, but just to give you an idea of what documentation is coming that's related to the 5.60 release, this is it. We appreciate your time. Are there any questions on anything that you've seen in the presentation that you have before we go?
Wanda, Angelina posted a question regarding travelers being able to update their own expense profile, and the answer is no, they cannot update their own profile.
Great.
Also, y'all, I just wanted to give you an update. So I just found out that Microsoft Teams had about 4,000 reports in the last hour. There's a server connection for Teams. So that's why we've been having so much trouble.
Thank you, Ashley, for that update.
Yeah,
I knew it had to be something. There couldn't be this many people having issues.
I have another
Also,
question.
Wanda. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So another question came in for what for requisitions. Do they need to be valid budget checked? And they don't need to be valid budget checked. We just need to either it's best practice to have them either fully approved or not in the approval process quite yet. So that's our suggestion, is always to really get those approved where you can.
And I was just going to give an update, Wanda, on the question that was at the beginning about whether you could change the background. At least according to the People Tools documentation, that those can only be changed. The style sheet can be changed, but that would change it for everyone. So I don't think so. I will continue to look, and we will contact the person that asked the question if we do find a way to do that.
Thank you, Julie. Anything else before we go? Thank you all for your time, and thank you for your support. If you find that you have a question later, just email it to us. Most of you have our email addresses, and we'll be happy to cover that. Thanks again.